The whole structure of the human being is finding your true identity. That's where it stands. And stop caring about what people think about you. So it's up to you. Nobody's going to knock on the door and go, hey, Jimmy, I have $1 million job for you. I have a great girl. I've got a fantastic car for you. I've got everything in the world that you need. Nobody's going to do that. So you have to get out and do it for yourself. And the way the mind works is 100% possible.
Welcome to the Entrepreneurs in Recovery podcast. I'm really grateful that you are here. I know there's so much going on in the world, so much that just happened over the last couple of days. So I'm really grateful that you're here with me and spending this time, especially with some of the guests that we have coming up and today's guest, because today we're going to get into some topics that are controversial and some that are known and things that people are talking about in the addiction world. I'm really excited to dive into that. But in the meantime, make sure you go ahead and like and subscribe on YouTube and check out our podcast on Spotify or iTunes and wherever you listen to it. And if you would, please leave me a 5-star review or any review, because all the reviews really help people to reach and find this platform and this podcast. So thank you all for doing that already, if you've done that. So today's guest is Dr. Robb Kelly. Dr. Robb Kelly is an addiction, I would say, specialist. He is a guy who has his own personal journey of addiction and homelessness, and all the way to getting his degree at Oxford, his PhD in psychology. So he has such a fascinating story. He has a lot of energy and a lot of wisdom, and a lot of the stuff where he's coming from is coming from neuroscience. And this is just a really interesting discussion. And we went to all different types of places, including health and nutrition. So I hope you enjoyed today's episode. Thank you all so much for tuning in. Dr. Robb Kelly, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Jesse. Great to be here. It's going to be a great show, man.
Yeah, it's great to have you on. And I'm so glad that we got connected recently. I just literally in the last, 2 months or less, we got connected. And I think it's really meant to be. It's all about timing. And as I make my way here, figuring out, navigating my own journey of whatever you want to call this, life, recovery, I would just call it life. Yeah. Being out here in Costa Rica, we connected out here and we had a really fascinating discussion about all these topics, which we're going to get into today. But I think a lot of them are really important topics and discussions, because we could always stick with what the status quo is. We could always talk about things of how they're talking about it on the media or how things have always been done. But that's not really how you operate. And that's not how I like to operate. We like to be talking about all the things. So let's get started first, before we dive into that, with your story. I would love to hear, you have a fascinating story, a little bit about Robb for the audience, so that we can get to know you a little bit better, and then catch us up to like a little bit of what happened, and catch us up to now, and then let's just dive right into some of this content.
Brilliant. So guys, I'm from Manchester, England, is where I grew up. I got here as quick as I can, by the way. Been over here about 18 years. Grew up in a very low class, no money, working class family. I always wanted to be a musician, so I got my first guitar at the age of 4, 5 or something like that. And my uncle and auntie were musicians, so as soon as I was able to play at the age of 9, 10 or something like that, I was on stage with them playing. But normal schooling, took my first drink at the age of 9 on stage in Liverpool. It's totally different. Nobody knew about alcoholism, addiction, childhood trauma, PTSD, depression, all the stuff that we specialize in today using neuroscience. So nobody knew. There was alcoholism in the family, but nobody put that together, that might just ruin your life. So drinking all through school, playing in bands, and eventually got to play. Just a one-off guy said, "Can you cover for me at the studio?" And I said, "Yeah, what do you mean?" A few bass tracks and they'll pay you and stuff. It's called session work. I'm like, yeah, I can do that. So I drove up to Stockport, Strawberry Studios, 10cc. That was their first studio. And I tell you, Jesse, I did about an hour's work. Now, bearing in mind that I'm in band, so you're packing your stuff at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, you're setting up at 6 o'clock, you're getting there for 7 or 8, you're playing till midnight, you're traveling home, and I'm probably getting £20. If that, maybe £10. I goes in the studio, I sits down, he put music in front, I'll play it, they put another music, I'll play it, And they were hanging around for a bit. We come in, we do a therapist, I play it, and he gives me £100. And I'm like, holy shit, really? So then I became a session musician, very cocky when I was young, still cocky now. People think I'm cocky and, aggressive, and God bless you if you are. Go and see your sponsor, write your 10 step. But finally got to work at Abbey Road with some great guys there. Drinking and taking drugs. Though drugs didn't really do anything for me. Maybe cocaine, keep me awake. I was doing late night sessions and going to college at the same time. But yeah, a musician is always wanting to be. So, I came out of college. I was a policeman, first of all. They fired me for being drunk. Then it was something else. They fired for being drunk. And I started my own business. And, we kind of, I'm an all or nothing guy, guys. I'm either all in or all out. I don't do middle of the road. If I'm not the best in the world, I'd say I'm not going to touch it. I've been here 18 years. I've never played basketball. The other day, someone said, Rob, do you want to play? I don't play. Yeah, but we can teach you. I'm good, thank you. Because not my age right now, I'm not going to be the best in the world at it, so I'm not going to touch it. So that's the mentality I've had all my life of achieving something, whatever I want and I can achieve. So going through the years of building an empire in England and then losing it all, got married, 2 children, lost it all, ended up homeless on the streets, kind of, just realized that I might have a problem, but didn't even think about it. And then eventually became homeless, lost everything and became homeless. And I lived on the streets for about 14 months. And it was crazy, absolutely crazy.
Yeah, well, thanks for leaving us off there, because you've had quite a bit of successes since, and I'm sure successes and challenges. But yeah, thanks for that. Thanks for catching people, up to your backstory and then up until the story of being homeless. And I know that, since that time, you've chosen to work with people who struggle with addiction and trauma, and do it in a way that's really fascinating, which you have experience with the 12-step process. You have experience with that fellowship, of course, and it was extremely helpful in the early days, as we talked about in a previous conversation. But I'm really curious. Tell us about the work you do today and why. Like, how did you discover this work you're doing, where we're talking about rewiring the neural pathways in the brain? Can you catch us up, and how did you get into this specific work you're doing now?
At the time when I was going through what I was going through, I died twice on the streets of Manchester, guys. I knew there was something else. I knew I wasn't happy to be told you're an alcoholic, which is the only self-diagnosed illness in the world. So your doctor's telling me that doesn't mean nothing. I had nowhere to go. Nobody knew, how to treat it, And I was always fascinated watching friends and family die of all sorts of mental illnesses. But when we first started, I would say the biggest thing we've had in the last 10 years. So when we first started, we were 95% alcoholic addicts, and now we are 5% alcoholics and addicts, and the rest are entrepreneurs. People want to get their head right. We have 9D therapy breathwork here that not a lot of people in America have. So the new science and the neuroscience pertaining to all of the above, I found was working. When you find out what's actually going on in the brain, subconscious, conscious mind, therefore behavior and central nervous system, you really have to understand that whatever you're going through, that's not your lot. It really isn't. So the more I learned, the more I was taught, the more I was getting into it, the more I understood, the more information I was coming out that was blowing people's minds. We are aggressively, in a nice kind of way, involved in what we do, because I've seen thousands, if not millions, with the ripple effect of people change. So when people say to me like, yeah, but I'm sorry. We have a 98% success rate, and we're the only company in the world that offer you money back if you relapse, if you drink, if you get back depressed, if you don't, build your business into a multi-million-dollar business, we'll refund you. Nobody else can do that. So with that statement that we come out with some years ago, people are like freaked out. And the first thing they want to do is they want to try and bring me down, of course. So this new science that we're bringing, and I've got almost 9,000 patients. It's not as if this is based on 100 patients, over the last 30 years. So the better we got, the more people start. The medical fraternity wants to shut me down. They took my psychology license off me about 5 years ago. saying that my methods weren't current with blah blah blah. So 6 months later, I got it back again. But yeah, it's just, we're different to anybody else. When you have a success rate, especially mental illness, of between 5 and 9% in treatment centers, and we're sitting at almost 100, then we're doing something different. And we're very proud of that. And I know we spoke before about the haters that we have. One of the things I've learned over the years, because I tell you what, millions of people have helped with the ripple effect again, and big concerts and, stuff like that, TV. You're never going to get a negative comment of someone that's doing good as you or better. But you're always going to get a negative comment if you don't please everybody. They'll write something. But the 5 stars, most of the guys I work with today are not going to be seen dead on Google or, all the other stuff. They're A-list celebrities. They're not going to go on or give me a review and put it on our website. We don't work like that, but we love what we do because we do what we love and we're successful at it.
Yeah, well, since we went there, let's go there. So I want to get into all the, the stuff about addiction and trauma and childhood trauma, but let's just go there. So people enter this space and I mean the space of doing what you were put on earth to do. And when you start to put out content as you're uncovering your own levels of consciousness, as you're healing your own shadows, you're working through your own childhood traumas, and you're just learning like, okay, this is who I think I am. And I'm going to create this service to the world and help. And when you do that, what happens is people come out and they get upset. They don't believe in your philosophies, your beliefs. That wasn't their way of doing things. So like, what would you say to someone who is impacted by the comments that you might get on reviews or your book reviews or Google reviews, whatever? Like, what would you say to an entrepreneur or even just a creator, an artist who's starting, you're going to get critiqued, you're going to get criticized. So what would you say to someone like that?
Guys, if you're being criticized online, you're doing something right. Unless you're not, and you're doing something wrong, which obviously you need to own up to it and see if you can get it right. But keyboard warriors, they always see you on TV and they always want to make a negative, and that's fine. But what you've got to remember, guys, is this. So if you're in that position now, stop looking at the comments. Look at the source. Where they're coming from. Oh, Jimmy in his mum's basement, he's 42 years old. He's on benefits. Of course, he's going to negatively report. Don't even know you. I'm not got tons. I've got 3 or 4 on Google, like bad, rest of 5-star. But I don't know these guys, So you've got to get you in a headspace. If what you're doing is correct and you're saving lives or you're building businesses and you're building empires, you've got to stay away from the naysayers. Anybody, because this is what happens to the untrained mind. As in childhood trauma. When we're young, as babies or toddlers, we get messages from mum that seem to be the truth. Don't put your hand on a hot stove, it'll burn you. Ow! Start crying. Well, a fundamental basic principle right there is whatever mum tells me is the truth. And as we go through life, we find out what people tell us is not the truth. But so as we start to change and the subconscious brain starts to change, there's 1% at the back over here that came from birth, that came from toddler that says, don't do this, don't, and he's right. So when someone makes a negative comment, 99 people said you're amazing. 1 person said you were terrible. Because of the childhood trauma, you're going to concentrate on that 1%. And therefore, all the people you can help, all the entrepreneurs out there are going to work off that 1%, not the 99. So that's about childhood work. Once you go back, like I did, and do the childhood work, the negative and the positive for me, I don't look at anything. Oh, have you seen Johnny? Have you seen this famous speaker? Why do I want to watch him? So you can pull yourself away. Surround yourself with the guys that want the best for you. Or hang around the guys that you want to be. Not the negativity guys. And watch out for this guy. Hey, Rob, I see you putting a little bit of weight on. Just joking. That guy, get rid of it. And surround yourself with the right guys. And you get everybody who puts himself out there gets shot at. But that means somebody's taking notice of you. There's no such thing as bad press. So if you can, get your own childhood trauma work and then you just dust it off. That's all you do. Because you're making a difference in this world.
Yeah, for sure. So I think one of the things that I've noticed about my own journey is trying to navigate into goal setting and future vision, future casting, and getting into all these ideas of what you think you want, your future goals, your quarterly goals, all these things. You can do that all you want. But if you have childhood trauma and you have a nervous system that is dysregulated, I don't care what your goals are. You may hit some of those goals, but you're going to be ultimately always pulled back into this is never enough. I'm never enough. The self-worth. So let's talk about that for a minute. So I've definitely experienced that myself where I've set big goals and I've accomplished some of those goals. And you know what has happened after completing some of the biggest goals of my life? I've actually felt depressed. So let's talk a little bit about like the nervous system and this trauma in the body and in the DNA, how this impacts people in general, but especially entrepreneurs who are high achievers, all in, and we get to the finish line, or we get to this goal, or we don't get to this goal. And either way, we have this part of ourselves that has never been dealt with. What would you say to that entrepreneur, that person struggling with that?
Well, childhood trauma is the gateway drug. So everybody has childhood trauma. But with certain people who have been depressed, addiction, alcoholism, PTSD, all the stuff that we talk about, psych, we're more sensitive to voice and criticism and comments. So me and my brother stood on the kitchen table when we were young, and mum walks in, and this actually, Jesse, what she said to us, well, you get down off that table, you stupid idiots, before your dad gets in. My brother jumps down and I freeze. This is very interesting, guys. The reason why I freeze is this is what I've heard. And that's how most people with the three parts of the brain that differ from any, but that's how we hear stuff in the childhood trauma wrapped in before that we're walking around on eggshells.
Hey, Rob, can you say that again? I didn't even hear it. Can you say what she said?
So she said, "Get out off that table," is what I heard. What my brother heard, well, you get down off that table before your dad gets in, but we hear things differently. Lots of entrepreneurs will hear things differently because of the structure of the brain, but not a lot of people know this. So what happens is when we hear a negative comment, that becomes our primary prefrontal cortex message that we're going to act on, not the 99 people, because we hear things different. So it's all about enmeshment and learned behavior as a child. Okay. How do we know that? Well, I think it's been done several times, but we got a huge mason jar. We stuck 1,000 fleas, weird request from the pet store. And then we stuck a lid on, we punched holes, and we left it there for 3 days. Now, fleas can jump 3 or 4 feet in the air, as we know. When we took the cap off, not one flea jumped higher than where that cap was. But what was really interesting is we left it there for several weeks. And when they had babies in that jar, the babies wouldn't jump out of the jar, and they'd never even seen the lid. So they only went up to where the lid was. So that's learned behavior from caregivers, from parents. Nobody's to blame. We're not doing that stuff. But yeah, we learn this learned behavior is we're not good enough. We're, dad or mom or caregivers said you've wasted time. You can't achieve this. And it affects everything inside the body. You see, the subconscious brain, where all that bad stuff is, wakes us up in the morning. And the reason why it wakes us up in the morning is lack of oxygen. So the presence of oxygen equals the lack of disease, period. Every single illness, every ailment, every feeling, every depression starts in a hypoxic area of the body. So when we wake up in the morning, it's important we do our breath work. So we got the subconscious brain who wakes us up. This guy's going to be terrible. It's going to tell you no. What we do is we do our 20 exaggerated breaths, get oxygen in. And basically what happens in layman's terms is we kill this guy. This guy's introduced the conscious brain. That guy's going to achieve every single day, man. Every single day is going to be the best person it could be. But then we go to sleep and have a guess who wakes us up. So that's when the 24 hours at a time comes from. It's not an AA thing. They adopted this. It's like certain parts of the brain reset every 24 hours. So you have to train the mind over matter. The brain is matter to control them feelings, them negative comments, and everything from your childhood that you have to clear. It's vital that you uncover, discover, and discard of what's going on back there. Then you'll find your true identity. And when you find your true identity, man, I mean, you go on, do a Google search now, guys, for Tony Robbins. See how many negative comments you can get. There are thousands upon thousands upon thousands. You think he gives a shit about your comments? No. So it's the whole structure of the human being is finding your true identity. That's where it stands. And stop caring about what people think about you. Who cares? Oh, Jimmy says, you're too cut. Who cares, man? Life's too short for that stuff. Because when we start listening to some comments, what happens is we do nothing with our lives. Then the guy or guys that are making them comments die. Then you're 80 years old and you sat in your one bedroom apartment going, where did it all go wrong? I wish I'd have done this. It's like nobody really cares. So it's up to you. Nobody's going to knock on the door and go, hey, Jimmy, I have $1 million job for you. I have a great girl. I've got a fantastic car for you. I've got everything in the world that you need. Nobody's going to do that. So you have to get out and do it for yourself. And the way the mind works is 100% possible. People used to say to me, Jesse, all the time years ago, I said, you do anything you want to do. Well, I can't be president of the United States. Let's forget our political views for a second. We had a business around the country for 4 years with no political experience whatsoever. Don't dare tell me that you can't achieve your dreams. It's just not true. Somebody's put that there.
Yeah, my brain kind of went on a whole tangent when you were talking, and I was thinking about a lot of things. I want to get into something that you talked about, where you talked about waking up with the breath and doing the breath work. So obviously, like there's books out there, The Body Keeps the Score, the polyvagal theories, all these things out there about the body, the vagus nerve, and how this impacts our daily experience. And of course, fight or flight and freeze and fawn and all these terms that anyone can Google and look up. But I'm really curious about when you talked about this breath work. So exaggerated breath, right? So can you just walk us through what would that breath work be like? So I wake up in the morning and, the night before I've have all these revelations of my life and how good it's going to be and all the things I'm going to do. And I'm going to lose weight. I'm going to write that book. I'm going to start that business. I'm going to get that promotion. Then I wake up in the morning, boom, I have depression. I have anxiety. So can you walk us through some of this exaggerated breath? What would that be like?
So most people only breathe about 45 to 55% of their lung capacity. Again, when oxygen's in the body, lack of disease, no cancers, no death. And you might think it's crazy, but our food industry and oxygen. Food industry is killing us. Lack of oxygen is killing us. So the only reason why we feel good going to the gym or runners, it's not the exercise, guys. It's this in between. That's why we feel so good. So when the body wakes up, let's say it's 6 a.m., on a normal circadian sleep pattern rhythm, your body between 2 and 5 is at its lowest, and most repairs start happening. It's also when most people die of natural causes, because the body has got no defense system. It's repairing, it's getting ready for the day. So when you wake up, we have nothing, no oxygen. Now, if we only breathe 55% at most of oxygen, why we're not performing, there's your answer. Why are we feeling terrible and sluggish? Look at the food source that you're eating. You don't eat real food over here, by the way, or anywhere in the world, I don't think. So when you get up in the morning, before you do anything, guys, there's 3 things I ask all my patients to do. Again, 9,000 patients and millions of people in AA and stuff like that I sponsor. Is 20 exaggerated breaths. Let's get that oxygen all around the brain, the body. Let's saturate with it. And, this is not like with Wim Hof or if you do. No, this is just oxygen. Get it in as fast as you can. Do 20 of them first thing in the morning. Exaggerate that breath in and exaggerate it out. As soon as you finish, you'll feel yourself going dizzy. If you don't go dizzy, you're not doing it right. So hold on or sit down. Go straight in the bathroom. Do your I love yous in the mirror for 6 feet away so we don't see our blemishes. That's how we think people see us every day. When's the last time you went in the office and, hey, Jimmy, how you doing? We don't do that. So people see us from you 6 feet away. When you stand 6 feet away from the mirror, all your blemishes go. You do I love you 10 times. No other affirmations that store that subconscious brain full of great, I love you, you're amazing, blah, 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 but just I love you 10 times. Garble your teeth brush. If you brush your teeth with your right hand, let's start changing some neural pathways around. I'll tell you why. So left, right for a month, alternatively. 300 neural pathways-ish die every day in the brain. My question to you guys is, what are you replacing them with? Are you replacing them with the negative comments? Are you replacing them with you'll never be good enough? Or are you telling yourself and replacing them with the people around you, the high energy, the pep talk, wherever you go is amazing. You can light up a room, that kind of person. Because there are billions in the head, but I'll tell you what, if you're changing 300 every single day for positive, the people we hang around with, what we listen to, what we do, we are kind, compliment people, you're going to change immensely. So that's just a morning work. There's all kinds of work to be done during the day, which is easy. But again, when you do this stuff, you'll start to find your true identity because you'll start to change. And with the oxygen saturated the brain, you start thinking for yourself. And then you realize that you can literally do anything you want to do. It's just a trauma. It's just the surroundings right now. So if you're at home now, moms, and the husband's left you, and you're in a one-bedroom, broken-down apartment with 3 kids, and you think that's it. It's not. It really isn't. You are meant for better things. Everybody's meant for better things, but we don't think so because we think, oh, obviously not. I can't be a leader. Bullshit! You can't be a leader. So if you're listening to this podcast, you're listening for a reason. Many years and many years I've been through what I've been through. I'm 63 now, and I can tell you one categorical thing, that is there's no such thing as circumstances. It just doesn't happen that way. So start seeing yourself as the man you want to be. Even if you don't have a car, walk to that bus stop, jump in that Uber with confidence, and it'll start to grow, man, because when you start being somebody, it's easier to comment negative than say, hey, man, nice job. Hey, Jesse, great job. Because there's 2 reasons. One, people never tell us. And the only reason they don't tell us is they think we know. Back in Dallas, 2 nurses, guy came in suicidal. He spent an hour with me. He went out, he's high-fiving the nurses, he's hugging them, he's whistling. One younger nurse who just joined us went, oh, my God, to another nurse. Did you see what Dr. Robb just did? That man, he changed that guy. And the older nurse says, I know, right? And she says, oh, he's amazing. And the other nurse says, I know, have you told him? Oh, I mean, he already knows it. Nobody knows. All right, guys, nobody knows. You've got to tell people, you've got to compliment people. And then you get dopamine, they get dopamine, and we're on a different level already.
Yeah, I really like that because a lot of times, and I've had to learn this the hard way, is we people, I think even if you think about yourself or myself, people like us, we need that too. It's not that we need the validation or the approval. It's just we need to be told things that are being felt, right? So when we feel a certain feeling towards someone, let them know. I really love that because there's many times that this journey is very lonely.
Yes.
Being an entrepreneur is so lonely at times.
Yes.
And you're in this, I'm doing deep research, whether it's scientific research, esoteric research. I'm doing all kinds of research all the time by myself. And when I come out of my cave and I'm then talking and interacting with people, that's exactly what happens. People won't say those things that they feel like, wow, this person is intelligent or this person is doing great work. They'll just assume I already know this, and it's not true. It's like, we need to hear that. And I think that's really important. It's not about validation or approval. It's as a human species, we need to hear that we're cared about, we're loved, people are thinking about us, and I think that goes back to the tribalism days and being in a tribe and having your tribe with you, and people, the hunters going about it and bringing back the kill, and then the people go, thank you so much to the gods and to the people who hunted. And I think we still have that in us, that innate need. And I really like how you brought that up because I've been reminded of that for myself, to do that with people too, to say, hey, great job. And you look great today. And that's something that I think we can all work on, but I certainly can use some work on that too. 3
a day, compliment 3 people every day. It has to be true though. Don't, compliment on some 600-pound guy saying he's looking great. He's not looking great and he's sorting himself out. He'll die of a heart attack or something. But we compliment 3 people every day is what we need to do every single day. Because first of all, we don't know what people are going through. That's the main thing. Show me your friends, I'll show you your future. If you're around people who are not commenting or building you up on a daily basis, you need new friends. If you're going to the job every day and the boss is being an idiot and you're always thinking you need another job. If you're going home every night and the wife or the husband's, you're walking out on eggshells and you don't like that, get another wife or husband. It's not that easy. It really is that easy. Stop getting back in the box and staying back in the box. We have to move forward in everything that we do. So I have people around me now that don't take any bullshit off me. Don't get me wrong. But they every single day, wow, yeah, you did amazing, fantastic. And it gives you the courage to go on because you just hit something on the head, Jesse. It's like entrepreneur, podcasters, it's a lonely job, man. And you don't see anything of it. And you jump on the internet and there's that one negative comment and that's you done for the day. It's like you've got to look at the source and you've got to look at the people around you and stop reading the comments. Them are not your guys, okay? They're not your guys. There's a guy 4 years ago owns a big company and he's like, well, I've just seen 2 negative comments, so I don't know whether to come with you. I said, what's the name of the company? He says, blah, blah, blah. And I Googled it while we're talking. He had 172 negative comments and thousands of positive. But I said, it's just life. I don't give a crap about that, do you? So you have to surround yourself with these guys that are lifting you up every single day. I was in Dallas. I moved to San Antonio 4 years ago. But I was in Dallas for about 14 years. And I kept saying to I thought they were my guys. They kind of forced themselves on me, thinking of writing a book. Oh, I'll be stupid. You're not an author. You can't write a book. Nobody wants to hear it. It's just a normal life, Rob. So you was homeless. Big deal. Nobody wants to hear that. Never wrote a book. Come to San Antonio 4 years ago, got a new set of really, really competent guys. Said one day, I was sitting around the pool and thinking of writing a book. Oh my God, you've not got books out there? What do you get a book? Everybody, I wrote a book and it's out there, So you have to find your tribe. I love the way you said that, Jesse. You have to find your tribe, man. And just going back to the tribal days, somatic experience says we have to, that gut feeling that we get, it's the realest thing you're ever going to get in life. Goes back to the tribal days when there was danger around 1, 2, 3 guys. We got a gut feeling. You have to act on that. So if you're hanging around guys that are sucking energy from you, if you're hanging around guys that are not lifting you up, it's nothing about ego. My ego went when they took my kids off me, man. This is about confidence, about walking with God or whoever your God or supreme is, walking with him over so many years, knowing your worth and knowing your identity. And the rest just falls into place, man. But stay away from them guys and naysayers.
Yeah, I'm the longer I navigate this journey, I'm truly convinced that you really only need 1 or 2 people that really, really know you and really understand your journey. That's all you really need. There's people who have maybe been along the path or maybe newly have showed up recently and can really build you up. But if you have that 1 or 2 people that understand what you're doing, that's all you need. You don't need 10 people, 5 people. And that's really what's kept me going all these years. In many ways, it's just like, okay, I know I can bounce this off of this person and they're going to receive it, not try to alter my message, not try to change any of it, just hold the space and be able to navigate my own upgrades, right? Because we change, right? That's what happens. People change. There's ideas that get shifted. There was a time and place where there was only black and white thinking in my way of thinking about addiction. And in time, and that was because of programming, that was because of school and the things I was being told. But then when I started to break out of that, I had specifically a few people, 1 or 2 people that when I broke out of the mold of what addiction is and what trauma is, they just listened and held that space while I figured it out myself in my own way. And that's all you need. You just need someone to hear your crazy ass ideas, the crazy ass shit, just let you be your authentic self, right?
Yeah. And validate them. You need guys around who's going to validate them. Can you imagine Google being out like when Jesus was around? Nothing would happen. Oh, that guy, that kid. Imagine when some famous philosopher that changed the world got a comment, he's not going to do it. It's like things get changed with people who think outside the box. Most people like being in that box. So here's back in the late 60s, there was a girl snatched off the side of the road in England, Manchester. 16-year-old, blonde hair, blue eyes. There was a huge manhunt for her. Couldn't find her. So it was pulled off and they presumed dead. 9 months later, police cars followed another car down a country road, middle of nowhere. He has a broken light at the back of his car. They get out. One of the things they used to do back then, because there's no radios and Googles and stuff, they used to say, hey, is this your car? Yeah. Well, your backlight's broken. Just to prove it's your car, what's in the trunk? You go, yellow jacket, pair of boots. Yep, yellow jacket. Okay, it's your car. Get the light fixed. They did it with him, and he was cages. When they opened the back, there was a stolen screwdriver one stolen screwdriver with the tab still on. He had no receipt. So now they went back to his house, and sure enough, lawnmowers, drills, ladders, he's stolen thousands of pounds worth of stuff. They found a box in the corner, 4 foot high by about 12 foot wide. And they said, we know what you've got in there. You've got more stolen stuff. And he denied all knowledge of that box. When they smashed the lock off, they opened it, and there was the girl that went missing 9 months ago. She was still alive. She was bruised and she was battered. He used to take her out every day, abuse her, bath, restroom, food, back for 9 months. He did that on a daily basis. So when the policewoman leant over and took this young girl's hand, she helped her step outside the box. She took her police coat off and she wrapped it around her. What's the first thing she did? She got back in the box. That's what we do with life. They're the naysayers out there. They're the guys that are not going to be anybody. You have to realize that you're in a box right now. You need to step out. You need to smash the box. You need to move forward. Staying in the comfort zone, you're wasting your life, man. Go drink. Go use. If you're going to stay there. Because sooner or later, and I'm sure you know this, Jesse, you're going to realize it's not about you. It's about the amount of people you said, and you've got all the blessings monetary. I've come along. Don't worry about that. It's the easy stuff. If you're doing the right thing. Because for me, I know when I get to heaven, I believe there's a heaven of my streets. I was saved off the streets. But you know, when I meet him, you know what he's not going to ask me? How much was that car you were driving? How much was that house? My God, that Rolex gold. That was He's going to ask me one thing. How many people did you help? That's it. And I want a big number. So each individual, each human being has the capacity and the capability to be something amazing. Absolutely world-changing, amazing. If you just start on going, that's just BS, I can't change the world. Next time you're out in an area of built-up people, sneakers are always the best. Find somebody walking towards you with sneakers and just say this, nice sneakers. And he'll go, oh, thank you, man. Turn around and watch him. He's going to look down his sneakers at least 2 or 3 times. Now you've changed that guy. When he goes home to the girlfriend or wife, he's in a good mood, she's in a good mood. And he goes on nice sneakers, great hair, nice glasses. 2 words, man. You both get dopamine a rush, which is brilliant, and you both can build on that. But we don't know what people are going through, and that's one of the things that stops us. Is there was a guy that he walked to the Golden Gate Bridge, he threw himself off and he committed suicide. Like a lot of people do. They pulled him out of the water. They found his ID, young guy, and he went back to his apartment to search for next of kin or whatever. What they found was a note on the kitchen table. And it read, said this so many times, I'm going to walk to the Golden Gate Bridge and throw myself off and commit suicide. Unless on the way there, somebody says good morning, nods their head, smiles at me. In that case, I'll stop, I'll turn around and I'll try again tomorrow. So my question is, guys, how many people have you walked past today who's heading to the Golden Gate Bridge?
We never know that internal war that someone's fighting. And I think that, you know, when it comes to the listeners of this podcast, you know, you can assume that people listening to this podcast, many of them probably have more opportunities than most people. If you're listening to this podcast, you probably have more opportunities than most people. And maybe some of you are listening that are struggling. But the reality is, like you said, like we have a purpose. Regardless of who you are, where you are, you have a purpose. And that purpose is connected to helping others in some way, shape, or form. And it even could be helping animals, because maybe helping animals is helping people. Whatever it is, there's something that you're here to do. And I think that we've really touched upon this real sacred conversation of just saying hello to that person. You know, after you listen to this podcast, go and say hello to that person. Say, hey, I really enjoyed you know, this conversation, or you have beautiful earrings, or whatever it is, like to watch the ripple effect of that. So what I'd like to do is let's talk about addiction, and let's talk about this topic where there's a lot of different, there's a lot of thinking around this, but you have a saying, and this is where you have a saying where alcoholics are born, drug addicts are made. So let's talk about that, because number one, my father was an alcoholic. his brothers were, and I mean severe. My father died of alcoholism. So this severe alcoholism has been passed down to me. My grandmother was an alcoholic. My brother's an alcoholic who's now in recovery. Let's talk about that. Alcoholics are born, drug addicts are mad. I like to clarify a little bit of that with you.
Most people that hear this for the first time are a little bit freaked out. But again, everything we say, I say on any program that I've done, it's been tried, tested, proved, researched. Alcoholics have what's called a predisposition. They're allergic, first of all, to the ethanol in alcohol. Secondly, alcoholism is the only disease that can be passed down through generation to generation. Heart disease can't. Growth. Oh, my mum had inflammation in the knees, and she's passed it down. Biologically impossible. What happens with mom and dad is they have a staple food, what they eat or they can afford. And with that staple food, there is something that one parent or the other cannot methylate. When you can't methylate, it becomes a deficiency, which becomes an illness. Totally different thing. Let's take that out. 3 parts of the brain differ in alcoholics and anybody else. It's the basal ganglia, the hypothalamus, and the amygdala. So alcoholics, when they're born, some may not take the first drink, but those who do is on a ticking time clock. That is it. And I'll tell you what. The hypothalamus is our fundamental from birth survival part of the brain. It tells the human being from birth, you need to drink water and eat food to survive. That's why babies cry and got their hand down the mouth when they're hungry, or, so we know from birth that we need to do that. As going through life, everybody's hypothalamus, you've got to eat food, drink water to survive. It's our survival instinct that we have to do that above anything else. At a certain point, and we can't put a time on it because everyone differs, in the alcoholic, the hypothalamus turns around and tells the alcoholic to drink alcohol only to survive. That's why we go days or weeks without food or water. It's telling us to drink alcohol to survive. Drug addiction is an addictive personality. Now, they both show up the same and everybody wants to chunk it together, and that's fine. I don't give a shit. But the neuroscience tells us a little bit different. So drug addiction, 90% of people that come to us with a heroin addiction started in the doctor's office, which we found really entrance, so we started research that, okay? Now, once that addiction has a hold of you, it's just like alcoholism. You're kind of done unless you get some severe work or get help or go for treatment. But left to your own devices, you will die. You will overdose. Left to your own device with alcoholism, we'll drink ourselves to death. But they do differ. To the layman, very slightly. But to neuroscientists and people who know about addiction and alcoholism, it's huge. So when we take that first drink, ticking time clock. We take that weed, we take whatever it is, they doesn't always end up to be a full-blown drug addict, okay? Alcoholics, when they drink early, mine was 9 and I continue to drink, it's a guarantee that I've caught the disease, passed down, my brother and sister didn't. It's a matter of time before it gets a grip of me and the hypothalamus turns. We don't know that. So how the hell can we treat it when we don't know what we're talking about or don't know what's actually going on in their head? And we get into these tags and we go to these meetings that tell us completely different. Now, I got sober in AA. I don't go anymore, but I did. But you go into any AA meeting and say, hey, guys, can you explain what does step 1 say? They'll all say the same thing. We're all powerless over alcohol. It doesn't say that. So if I'm being in a program that tells me I'm always powerless, I'm never going to get sober if I'm the real deal. I can go there days in, days out when I'm just a heavy drinker. I just stop drinking. Says we admitted we were powerless. I'm not powerless over alcohol. Neither should you be, but we're told these things. The doctor tells us, well, Mr. Johnson, you're definitely an alcoholic. It's the only self-diagnosed illness in the world. Why are you telling me alcoholic? 10 DUIs did not make you an alcoholic. If you're a heavy drinker, just stop. Be a man, stop. Be a woman, stop. It's that easy, but if you're an alcoholic, it's a totally different ballgame. So that's the difference between them both. Unfortunately, again, they both show up the same and both horrible, but one is addictive personality, one is a full-blown disease.
So let's talk about how to treat it. So is it treated differently then? If there's someone who's an alcoholic, is that treated differently than someone who's a drug addict?
Not really, no. The treatment is exactly the same, whether it be cigarettes, porn, but that's the neuroscience behind alcoholism. But the treatment is exactly the same. You need to clear the childhood trauma, which basically is a basal ganglia. It's our repetition, strengthen, confirms part of the brain. Anybody with addiction or alcoholism, if you can imagine a clock face, this is what happens to them. 12 o'clock they got on a bender, 10 after they end up in hospital, 20 after the wife takes them back, half past we get the kids back, 22 we get that job, and at 10 to the hour we self-sabotage. We drink or we use. And if you ask anybody that's relapsed one question, give me a reason, we can't do it. They give you 1,000 excuses, but they can't because of the basal ganglia is broken. Again, tied to childhood trauma. So treatment is exactly the same. You need to clear your childhood trauma up. And, I love the big book. It's brilliant. But 4 and 5 won't cut it, unfortunately. It doesn't go deep enough as we know today. Because of the way the years and years have gone on, we're different to we was in 1938, 39. We're different people, completely different. We're taller, we live longer, our cell structures change slightly. All these things is that you go back and you find out it's the childhood trauma. And you need to work on that. And you need to be vulnerable, you need to be brave, and you need to realize that everybody, unless you have severe brain damage pertaining to mental health, can recover from the bullshit that you're going through. But a lot of it is lies. If I have depression, what's the first thing I do? I go, hey, wifey, I have depression. Oh, go and see the doctor. So if I go to the doctor, then he go, oh, you're depressed. I'll put you on this meds for depression, okay? A few weeks' time or a few days, you'll feel better, okay? And I come along. Let's have a look what's really happened. I go to my high-paid drug dealer. He prescribes me a drug that I can never come off for the rest of my life because it's the serotonin I need to kind of make me happy, but it also depletes our own serotonin. Why isn't anybody asking the question before you go for the first time, why is your serotonin low in the first place? If you're going to any doctor and you're telling him you have depression, for instance, and he doesn't ask about your routine daily, which includes exercise and your food diary, it's not helping you, man. He's providing you with drugs and you're stuck in the rest of your life. That's it. So you got to think. You've got to believe what people say. Go on the internet, search the methylation, search the MHR gene. Go back to look at the food source. Find out what you're eating is causing all these diseases. It causes addiction. Going back, you show me a child right now who's gaming 8 hours a day. I'll show you a future addict. We're not taking any notice of this. We're going forward, and now all of a sudden we have an addiction problem. More people are coming out of the closet going, hey, I think I'm addicted or alcoholic. It was always going on. We just misdiagnosed. There's 10% of ADHD people out there that have ADHD, that when they take the amphetamine salts, it calms them down. Everybody else, it speeds them up. It's amphetamine salts. They can live all night. They can work all night. It's bit up. At one point in Texas, you couldn't prescribe or cash your prescription for an Adderall. It was 2 or 3 weeks delay before you can get there. Why? It's all about money. It's all about the money. Nobody cares about you. No health authority cares. I will never go to my general doctor for my general health ever again. Never go to my medical doctor for my general health. If I break a leg, I've got to go. But apart from my health, never. Never, never, never.
So this is the thing, right? I spent 15 years in 12 steps, 19 years coming up for recovery. I've learned a lot. I've talked to thousands of people, whether it was in direct 12-step fellowships and even outside the box recovery and all these different things. And one thing I've learned is that there's cross addictions. So you can stop drinking, you can stop using that drug, but you're going to pick up another drug, which is called sugar, or you're going to pick up another drug, which is called procrastination, which can be just as devastating, even though people will say, no, I put down the drink, I'm happy, I'm grateful. But now they have high cholesterol and that their health is now suffering. So, clearly we're not getting to the root of what's happening with people. And when you go to a doctor, unless they're somehow outside the box, they have been learned nutrition because they're not taught nutrition. They don't have years of training in nutrition. They may have a 12-week course, but they can go to school for 12 years, 14 years and not have any type of course on nutrition other than a very short one. Yeah. So I guess my whole thing is when people are, I have family members who struggle with their weight. They struggle with food addiction. So, what's going to kill them quicker, right? And you look at how do we actually treat the root cause of why someone, is in these predicaments? And you've mentioned oxygen. That's a really interesting. I don't even think we have enough time in this episode to get into that, but I would like to get into this idea of the brain and reprogramming the brain, right? So repatterning the brain, and because we can go to meetings, we can go to rehabs, we can go to NLP specialists, right? Because some of the stuff you're talking about is NLP. So how do you rewire that part of the brain, that survival part of the brain? How long does it take to rewire that part of the brain? Because like I said, you can stop drinking alcohol, you can stop watching pornography, but then you will replace it with another addiction. But and so did you ever really get to the root cause, which of course could be childhood trauma? But how do we actually start addressing that?
It's a lot of it is validation and approval from caregivers as we grow up. That's a lot to do with it. We use things like, I mean, psychology, SE, NLP, probably 10%. We basically use the neuroscience behind what we found. So the psychology and the 9D breathwork therapy, which is brand new to the world, it's been out about 6 months. It's huge of changing the way people think, changing patterns. People don't see patterns. So let's say you've been out, all go out, 20 of you on a bus to the seaside. You have a few beers, you have a great laugh. 6 p.m., you all come back. Which seat do you sit in? Usually the one you've traveled there in. That's a pattern. So we get in these patterns, whether they're good or they're bad, and we stay in these patterns. That becomes a norm. Just like the girl in the box. Why are you going to change it? So when somebody's growing up, a young girl, and she sees dad beating mom 2 or 3 times a week because he's drunk, she will go out expecting that's the result, and that's her energy will connect to another energy that ends up beating her being a drunk. To the fact that if they found somebody who's good to them, they'll self-sabotage that relationship. So it's really important that we change patterns. It's really important that we change that repetition, strength, and confirms. We uncover, discover, discard of what's causing you making this decision here. It comes from here. So that connection is very powerful. Why do I have 19 pair of sneakers and 100 pair of socks? I asked my therapist years ago. Well, we were only allowed to have 2 pairs of shoes a year from my parents. All they could afford, they told us. So I would walk in the snow with my shoes and socks with holes in, so my feet would be icy by the time I got there. And my therapist says, well, what did your mum and dad do? I said, well, they went to the bar Friday, Saturday, and Sunday night and had a good time, chilled out. And she said, did they have holes in their socks and shoes when they went to the bar? And the effect on me years later is mind-blowing. And that's just a little tiny kind one. So there are loads of stuff that's happened to you guys, and it's the reason why you're acting like this instead of like this. So it's all about understanding. It's all about repair. It's all about reprogram. It's all about repatterning. It's all these little things that we do. It's the breath work. It's understanding what you're eating. Guys, you need 4 oils in your life. Forget forget all the crap ones, the rancid canola oils. Okay? Just 4. That's all you need. Coconut oil, a grass-fed butter or ghee butter, olive oil, and avocado oil. That's it. If you stick to them oils when you're cooking, you watch your mental health improve. Because you go into I did it the other day on live TV. We went into a shop, a store. We saw this brightly packaged by this well-known health bar company. It had 9 grams of protein and 0 fat. Well, if I'm a mom or dad or whatever, I'm buying that. It's going to be good. We turned it around and we looked at the 27 ingredients that were in there. And the first one was something like canola oil. And the rest were rancid products that were in there. If you're eating stuff like that, you are not going to mentally achieve what you want to achieve, because your performance is going to be affected by the shit that we're putting in our body. So I tell people, don't go out and do all health stuff now, cost a fortune. Do 1 day a week when you eat the right stuff. Eat some organic stuff. Watch your vitamin pills. Watch that, man. Most of them got cyanide in. You want an organic vitamin pill if you're going to take anything. And once you start watching these things, the mental health will get better and better. The concentration will be clearer, and your identity will change, and your confidence will boost. And you're hanging around the right people.
Yeah. So I think, to kind of sum up some of the things we said today, we talked about many things that are certainly starting to be addressed in today's climate, post-COVID. We're looking at the seed oils. We're looking at these different what we're putting into our body, right? Our gut microbiome and how that impacts addiction. And then, like you said, oxidative stress or oxygen. And we talked about, repatterning the brain, going and working on childhood trauma. Like this stuff wasn't talked about. Even when I came into the program, I mean, none of this was talked about. This is all stuff that's really started to come up, I would say, some of it in the last 10 years, but really some of it in the last few years. And for anyone listening, it's like, I think one of the take home messages is like, start small, like get that one friend that can be part of your recovery team that has your back no matter what, right? Start with switching to one of these healthier oils, start with doing some of these I love you affirmations in the morning with some of this breath work. And if you want to go and you need to have that extra help, like reach out to Dr. Robb Kelly, like reach out to someone who can really start to go and get down to the core and to the root of what's really going on. But these practices we can start to do now. And, one of these conversations I have with my friend is we talk about, there's a book called Adult Children of Emotionally, you know the book I'm talking about, right?
Adult Child Alcoholics, yeah.
Yeah. So like we have these, these parents that we grew up with that were doing their best, but there's no doubt caused a ripple in what we believed in ourselves. And so I think, doing this work, starting somewhere is really key. So I'm curious for yourself, what are you doing? Like, what are your greatest sources of energy for yourself right now that really keep you in the shape that you're in and keep you going to work at your maximal capacity?
The 4 chemicals every day you need. We know the dopamine, oxytocin, serotonin, endorphins. Google that, find out what you have to do. But remember, dopamine and serotonin are the only ones, neurotransmitters, that's created in the gut. So what you eat really affects you. So I'll make sure I'm eating good and make sure I'm at least 20 to 40 minutes exercise every day, whether that be in the gym or walk. Just lost 157 pounds over the last 2 years because I wasn't happy the way I was looking. I stay with the positive people around me and I make sure that I'm complimenting them and they're complimenting me. And I stay in that circle. I don't come out. I've never watched a podcast of mine. I've never watched it hundreds of times, whether it be Oprah or the Eye Opener or whatever. Never seen myself on TV. I do not listen to my tapes. I don't know any of that. I just do what I do and we're good at it. And the better you start getting people well, the more you'll understand that you're pretty good at this. Yeah. And and a couple of people around you. Like you say, if you've got more than 4 people in the inner circle, there's at least one person there that wants to fail. Find out who it is, get rid of it. Even in the family. Always, after 30 years of doing this, always one person. But you need to address that and distance yourself away from them and you'll start feeling good. You'll start feeling good. Google me, come and speak to my team 24/7, no cost. Just message them back and forth if you've got any ideas, but always look at the source. So if you're, don't be stupid, you don't want to do that. Look at the source. We have a health minister, and I can't remember what it is, 300 pounds. Am I going to take any notice of her at 300 pounds about my health? No. So stop looking at the naysayers, find out the truth. Be a truth believer and a chain breaker. That's how you change your family going forward. Can't do it. Mom and dad weren't to blame. You guys around you that negative, not to blame. They don't know any different. Abused people abuse. Negative people make negative comments. Depressed people, it's the same old story going back generations is break free. Stop putting the brakes on your imagination, guys, because of past trauma. Find your identity and share it with the world. Everybody. I do a book study to the homeless on a Saturday morning. I've done it for 20 years since I've been in America. My father died on Thursday night, Friday morning. And I went to the book study and did my deal. And I came off and my sponsor said, "You okay?" I said, "Yeah, my father died last night." "Oh my God, why don't you announce it?" My job is not to bring anybody down. My job is to inspire. My job is to give a pep talk that lifts people up. I got my guys around me to go back and cry and tell them, but you never know what someone's going through. So do they want to hear talking about my dad? They're at the back of the room, dying, by the way, of untreated alcoholism. And I get up and share a shit story. I'll tell you about my dad passing away. How is it going to make you feel at the back? It's not about me. And if you keep that in mind through your life and share the stuff, be careful who you share stuff with. Share the stuff with your guys. And when you start getting experience, you'll know who your guys are in this 30 seconds when you meet them.
Yeah. So I know we only have a minute. So in 1 minute, I'd like you to tell us what is the thing that you're bringing to life right now? What is something you're bringing to reality you're most looking forward to manifesting right now?
I would say 9D breathwork therapy. We're just introducing it to the world. It's a game changer. It's like everything we know now on steroids. It's a nine-dimensional music and talk and subliminal messages, and all. It's amazing. So we're trying to work on that, and we're hoping to bring that to the world, starting in San Antonio, Texas. So we're excited about that. But we're excited about life anyway. So
Well, I'm excited about that. I want to learn more about that. We'll put that in the show notes too as this episode comes out. So can you just I know we're going to wrap it up. So where can people find you? Where's your work live? They can come and reach out to you, Rob.
So if you're listening right now and not watching, you can't see my name. I spell my name with two B's, ROBBKELLY.com. Jump on there. We're not selling anything, by the way, guys. We don't need, unless you want help from my team. You can message me, but we're not looking for patients. We're not looking to sell books or anything. We just want to help people. But we are looking for is the foundation. The RobbKellyFoundation.org is the website. I've only just started it a month ago. If you can afford $1, brilliant. If you can't, don't worry about it. But yeah, any social medias, any search engine, just put my name in and up, up, up.
Amazing. Well, Dr. Robb Kelly, I'm so glad we got connected. Thank you for your message. Thank you for the work you're doing. And I'm excited for the future, for our friendship.
Thank you, Jesse. Bye, guys.
Thanks for watching today's episode. Your support means the world to me. So thank you for liking and subscribing to the YouTube channel and to this podcast. We've got amazing content and amazing interviews coming out soon. So thanks again. Enjoy your day. Sending love and blessings to you all.